judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of two co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida. Ed Rabel reports.
Before pronouncing the sentence, Judge Edward Cowart let Bundy make a statement.
I'm not asking for mercy, for I find it somewhat absurd to ask for mercy for something I did not do.
As a society, we have learned that we are not all born the same. We all exist under different circumstances and are all born with distinct personalities and purposes that dictate who we are as people. In our society, we might differentiate from others due to our physical appearance. Some of us are blonde, brunette, tall, or short. These differences also apply to our character. Introverts and extroverts are no less a person than you and me. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that within the same society, we live amongst creatures disguised as humans, who, unlike the vast majority, lack human emotion. These individuals, of which I talk about, are characterized by their surprising ability to deliberately deprive themselves of sentimentality towards others. In our society, these characters are regarded as psychopaths, who when exposed to the public can be murderous threats. When you hear the word psychopath, the first thing that comes to mind is most likely a serial killer or some sort of stereotypical movie antagonist. Though not entirely different from this definition, psychopathy is a neuropsychiatric disorder that deeply affects the behavior and social life of those who undergo this condition. Individuals diagnosed with psychopathy have the compulsory tendency of analyzing their surroundings with the purpose of searching for a prey. Specifically, they usually are in search of a weaker person, one who is easy to manipulate. Their control and intimidation of others generate pleasure and satisfaction within the psychopathic mind, making them almost dependent on these actions. The use of violence is also a representative trait of psychopathic behavior. Their urge to hurt and cause pain is quite typical of mentally unstable individuals. It is obvious that these characters are capable of physically harming others. However, their potential to psychologically abuse someone is caused by their impressively high intelligence. Regardless, what is truly disturbing about people like this is their legitimate incapacity to feel remorse or guilt for their ruthless acts. This is for no other reason than their lack of conscience and their inability to distinguish right from wrong. In other words, their unempathetic nature allows them to understand emotions, just not to emotionally register them or affectingly connect with people. In psychology, psychopathy and sociopathy have always been regarded as one individual mental disorder, interchanging the use of these two concepts with time. Although these two conditions do not differentiate much between each other, some factors help determine what disorder a mentally unstable person is suffering from. Essentially, psychopaths have the propensity to formulate reasonable plans to execute their actions, attempting to reduce their own risk in criminal activities. These people also have the talent to appear sane to others, showing no signs of psychopathy. This can occur even to the extent of seeming charming or attractive. In contrast to sociopathy, subjects show less control over their impulses and act without thinking about their own consequences. They are far more prone to feel irritated about anything, hence the reason why they act recklessly more frequently compared to psychopaths. For sociopaths in society, it is more difficult to lead a normal life without arousing suspicion. If sociopathy and psychopathy have anything in common, it's the ineffectiveness in understanding the feelings of a person. They are both conditions that show no empathetic expressions whenever the individual commits an imprudent act. In essence, both medical problems belong to the category of antisocial personality disorder, since their social life is often considered chaotic.
Gilchrist County 911, what's the address of the emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I just shot my daughter and shot all my grandkids, and I'll be sitting on my step, and then when you get here, I'm going to shoot myself.
The nature versus nurture debate has consistently remained in scientific studies of human behavior. In psychopathology, experts still explore further into the subject. Is one born or made a psychopath? Federico Guitarte, Director of Human Resources at Brivalia and graduate in psychology, mentions that a psychopath is a hybrid composed between biological DNA and their environment. Both factors contribute in their overwhelming majority to the making of a psychopath.
Aparecen muchos razonamientos en lo que las personas con un trastorno antisocial de la personalidad fuerte suelen tener algunas configuraciones cerebrales y a nivel de neurotransmisores distintas. O sea, biológicamente tienen rasgos distintos. Hay algunos estudios también hechos con gemelos, donde al final criados en ambientes distintos para evitar el sesgo de que pudieran estar influidos por la educación, si tenían algunas características, lógicamente como gemelos, biológicas iguales, acababan teniendo síntomas de trastorno, aunque hubieran tenido ambientes educativos distintos. Normalmente es un híbrido. Yo creo que está a media entre las dos cosas. Creo que la razón para esa falta de empatía, para eso es, seguramente hay unas personas que nacen una predisposición biológica a padecer ese trastorno por configuraciones de corteza, que dependiendo del ambiente y el contexto en el que se han educado, lo pueden exagerar o lo pueden modular.
For every sociopath, there are distinct features in childhood which might increase the severeness of the condition. For instance, many psychopaths, such as Jeffrey Dahmer, have been victims of poor family dynamics. Relationships at home are confirmed to be one of the ruling causes of psychopathic development. Psychopaths often come from broken homes, where there's a portrayal of dominant mothers and absent fathers. The common revulsion towards this mother image is generally taken out on women, hence the reification of them. Furthermore, it has been established that psychological, physical, and sexual abuse were present and accountable for the psychopathic behavior of the majority of mentally deranged individuals, with 55.5% having suffered at least 2 forms of abuse. Alcoholism in families also played a significant role in the lives of psychopaths. John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown, was an American serial killer and sex offender in the 1970s who, like many others, endured an abusive childhood. Gacy was raised by his parents and grew close to his 2 sisters, however, had a complicated relationship with his father, John Stanley Gacy. He was an alcoholic who physically abused his family, including his wife and children. According to John Wayne Gacy, his own father ridiculed him, constantly beat him for no apparent reason, and cruelly compared him to his sisters. Despite his mother's various attempts to defend her son, Gacy received the accusations that he was a sissy who would probably grow up queer. Gacy's father received word in 1949 that his son had taken part in sexually assaulting a girl, to which he beat him with a razor strop as a consequence. During this time, a family member constantly molested Gacy in his truck. He never told his father about this, as he was confident he would blame the incident on him. For the following years, Gacy showed signs of dysfunctions due to his obesity and heart condition. Once more, Gacy's father believed this was all in order to gain attention. John Wayne Gacy loved his father very much in face of violent memories with his father. This is mere evidence that traumatic experiences and neglect during childhood mainly constitute the behavior of a psychopath in future occasions. A study completed at the Faculty of Human and Social Sciences in the University of Enna, Italy, has proved that out of the chosen Italian participants who took part in the experiment, 17 claimed to have experienced early traumatic situations in their childhood. 4 had experienced sexual abuse, 11 reported physical abuse, 9 revealed to have underwent emotional abuse, and 15 experienced emotional neglect. Results clearly demonstrate that subjects who experienced trauma earlier in life had a higher propensity of developing psychopathy. At an approximate age of 5.6, the standard deviation of the Hare psychopathy checklist was 2.85, whilst at the age of 11.5, standard deviation was 8.86. It was concluded that traumatic episodes related to family and environmental factors before the age of 10 were the cause of potential psychopathic behavior. Those people diagnosed with psychopathy and who have to deal with this condition will in fact have psychopathy in their own genes too. Graduate in medicine and neuro-linguistic programming Antonio Giordano Espejo states that psychopaths possess an organic imbalance within their brain. Neurotransmitters such as dopamine metabolites HVA and serotonin metabolites 5-HIAA found in the nucleus accumbens are responsible for the impulses of a psychopath. This higher ratio is assumed to be a sign of a problem with serotonergic control of dopamine activity, which causes aggressive impulses to become inhibited. There is no single trait in the brain that defines a psychopath. It's more of a set of patterns that form exaggerated characteristics. Psychopathy has been shown to be more frequent in males than in women, according to the Department of Forensic Psychiatry in Norway. As the results of a PCLR test indicate, women tend to score lower than males, with 1% of our population being male psychopaths and 0.3 to 0.7% being female. Because women exhibit less criminal and antisocial behavior, their Hare psychopathy checklist test results will be lower. The reasoning for this is related to testosterone levels. Testosterone alone does not increase violence, but rather contributes to the dominant behavior of an individual. For example, athletes are not necessarily more violent. When serotonin interacts with testosterone, the probability of violent aggression increases considerably, making men more prone to aggressive conducts.
El hombre es más compulsivo, el control de impulso tiene a lo mejor más, en ese sentido más deteriorado, es más explosivo, por así decirlo, ¿no? Que te encuentran también mujeres que, cuidado, que son muy agresivas, ¿no? Es verdad que el hombre es más, tiene más falto de, más carencia de control de impulso, más explosivo, y también es cierto que somos más contundentes en los medios para cometer ciertos delitos, mucho más hombres detenidos por delitos violentos que mujeres, eso ya te lo digo yo. Una tercera parte son mujeres y 2/3 partes son hombres, mínimo.
Testosterone is not the only hormone that affects behavioral imbalance. Cortisol is activated within the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, which is the stress response system. Cortisol is the hormone in charge of providing energy in stressful situations. However, in the situation of a person with antisocial personality disorder, quantities of cortisol are lower, therefore allowing sensitivity to certain things and less frequency of fearful emotions. Psychopaths' brains reveal rapid development of numerous brain areas associated with emotional and cognitive processes, yet a region of their brain called the amygdala fails to function properly. The amygdala is the section of our brain which permits us to understand emotions and to feel empathy towards others. Lack of proper amygdala function impairs the capacity to make sensorial connections with others. Hence the reason psychopaths are unable to correlate their cruel acts with the suffering they impose on others.
Es una persona que lo más importante y lo único en el mundo es el yo, su propia personalidad. Y a partir de ahí su relación con el resto es secundaria, porque todo está en función de ese egocentrismo que es lo que marca. Tiene algunos rasgos muy acentuados que le generan malestar, sobre todo en este caso a los demás y algunas veces a ellos mismos. Tiene una frialdad emocional tremenda. Cuando ves a un perfil con este tipo de trastorno, lo primero que destaca es que los demás no me interesan, y no me interesa además tener relaciones afectivas. Solo me interesa en la medida que lo pueda usar para mis fines. Un psicópata es una persona con una tremenda capacidad de manipulación, incluso de seducción. Suele haber mucha correlación entre delincuencia y personas con un perfil de trastorno antisocial.
What is truly alarming in a male psychopath and their genes is the fact that anomalies can occur. Psychopaths have a high quantity of genetic support on their side. Genetic mutations are possible during the formation of germinal cells due to an error in the division of the sperm. This peculiar alteration is not hereditary, however, will create as a result an extra Y in the XY chromosome, eventuating in an XYY chromosome. Serial killers such as Manuel Delgado Villegas, one of the most inhumane murderers in the history of Spanish criminals, was affirmed to have a trisomy of XYY sexual chromosomes. This chromosomal abnormality is mostly accountable for emotional issues, sudden impulses, under arousal, and even an increase in average height. While a healthy human body has 46 chromosomes, the additional Y chromosome in the XYY syndrome, which affects just 1 out of every 1,000 males, is included in the total of 47 chromosomes.
Yo te conto un caso que me pasó, ¿vale? Nos activan porque está un individuo con su madre y su mujer, ¿vale? Que la tiene agarrada por el cuello con un cúter y un cuchillo de cocina, ¿vale? Entonces el cúter está adherido al propio mosquetón, la tiene por el cuello su madre y con la otra mano un cuchillo jamonero en el pecho. Y el hombre, pues, yo noto que no tiene una conversación estructurada ni coherente, impulsivo, no para de amenazar y de insultar. Y yo vi esa agresividad, amenazando de muerte a la mujer y a la madre, agarrando a la madre por detrás, como te he dicho. ¿Tú qué piensas? ¿Que estoy ante un psicópata, ante un depresivo, ante un trastorno límite, una persona normal en crisis? ¿Qué estoy? No tengo problemas de desempleo, económicamente bien, familia estructurada.
In 1963, forensic psychologist J.M. MacDonald published a review linked to psychopathy and behavior in children. He depicted that there were a set of 3 behavioral factors during childhood that characterized a psychopath in the making. Pyromania, a type of impulse disorder that makes one start fires to relieve anxiety. Animal abuse, which consists of cruelty or killing towards living creatures. And enuresis, unintentional bed-wetting during sleep after the age of 5. Treatments of psychopathy are multimodal, and methods to decrease the intensity in this behavior can range from psychotherapy to the consumption of medication. Within psychotherapy, there are many types of therapies such as cognitive behavioral therapy, risk-need responsitivity, schema-focused therapy, and transference-focused psychotherapy.
Dentro de la prisión sí hay diferentes cursos que son diferentes terapias dados por especialistas.
Medications such as carbamazepine and lithium are recommended by experts in order to reduce impulsive behavior and violent conducts, as well as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which help with anger management. Nonetheless, it is possible that in the future, dopamine-modulating drugs in combination with serotonin reuptake inhibitors will be pharmacologic treatments for psychopathy. In any case, medication for antisocial personality disorders should not be a first-line treatment. Despite there being available treatments for a decrease in psychopathic comportment, according to Yale University, there is no cure for psychopathy. No pill can instill empathy. No vaccine can prevent murder in cold blood. And no amount of talk therapy can change an uncaring mind.